Have you ever found yourself in a place that feels both familiar and utterly strange? Where you're talking to someone you know, but their face keeps shifting like sand through your fingers? Where you can suddenly fly, or you're back in school but you've forgotten all your pants? If this sounds familiar, then you, my friend, have visited the most mysterious landscape there is, the world of dreams. Every single night, as you close your eyes and drift into sleep, your brain embarks on an incredible journey. It creates entire worlds from scratch, populated by characters, filled with emotions, and governed by rules that would make no sense in our waking lives. For centuries, human beings have wondered about dreams. What do they mean? Where do they come from? Why do we spend roughly 6 years of our lives immersed in these nightly stories? Our ancestors thought that dreams were messages from the gods. Early psychologists like Freud and Jung saw them as windows into our unconscious minds. But today, we're beginning to understand dreams through the powerful lens of neuroscience, the actual physical and biological processes happening in your brain while you sleep. Hello everyone, and welcome to Happy Sleep. I'm so excited to have you here today as we explore one of the most fascinating topics in all of neuroscience: why we dream. If you're passionate about understanding how your mind works, you're in the right place. Before we dive in, I have a tiny little favor to ask. If you find this video interesting, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. It really helps us grow and continue creating content that unravels the mysteries of the human brain. And here's something fun. After you subscribe, drop a comment below telling us where you're watching from and what time it is for you right now. I absolutely love seeing how our community spans the globe. Now, get comfortable, maybe grab a cozy blanket, and let's take a journey together into the incredible world of dreams. To understand dreams, we first need to understand what's happening in your brain when you sleep. To understand dreams, we first need to understand what's happening in your brain when you sleep. You see, sleep isn't just one uniform state where your brain shuts off, far from it. Your brain cycles through different stages of sleep throughout the night, each with its own unique patterns of electrical activity. When you're awake and alert, your brain produces what we call beta waves, fast, irregular electrical impulses. As you begin to relax and close your eyes, your brain shifts to alpha waves, which are slower and more rhythmic. When you drift into that lovely twilight zone just before sleep, theta waves appear. And when you're in deep, restorative sleep, your brain produces the slow, rolling delta waves. But here's where things get really interesting for dreaming. There's a special stage of sleep called REM sleep, which stands for rapid eye movement sleep. Now, let's pause for a moment and really sink our teeth into this incredible discovery, because it's one of those stories in science that just changes everything. Imagine it's the 1950s. A young graduate student named Eugene Aserinsky is working in the lab of his professor, Nathaniel Kleitman, at the University of Chicago. Dr. Kleitman was already known as the father of modern sleep research, a man utterly fascinated by what happens to us when we slip into unconsciousness. But the tools they had were so primitive compared to what we have today. They were pioneers, mapmakers of a vast, dark continent that existed inside every human head, every single night. Aserinsky's initial task wasn't even to find a new stage of sleep. He was actually studying the eye movements of sleeping infants. But as he watched these little babies, he noticed something that everyone, for all of human history, had missed because our eyelids are closed. He saw their eyes darting back and forth, rapidly, beneath their delicate lids. It wasn't just a little twitch, it was a pronounced, rapid, side-to-side movement, as if they were watching a very intense ping-pong match that only they could see. This was so strange that he and Kleitman decided to investigate it in adults. Now, think about the setup. This was long before comfortable, modern sleep labs. You'd have volunteers come in, and they'd have electrodes glued near their eyes to track eye movement, and others on their scalps to measure brain waves through an electroencephalogram, or EEG. It was probably not the most comfortable way to get a good night's rest. But it was in these awkward, wired-up nights that something magical happened. Aserinsky and Kleitman started to see a pattern. Throughout the night, Their sleeping subjects would enter these distinct periods where their eyes would go crazy, darting around frantically. And when they looked at the brain wave readings from the EEG during these exact periods, they got the shock of their scientific lives. The brain waves didn't look like the slow, rolling waves of deep sleep. They didn't look like the calm, relaxed waves of someone just drifting off. They looked awake. The squiggly lines on the EEG machine were fast, low voltage, and desynchronized, almost identical to the brain waves of someone who is alert and engaged with the world. This was the paradox, the beautiful, baffling contradiction that led to the name, paradoxical sleep. Here was the body, dead to the world, lying still in a bed, but the brain inside was throwing a wild, energetic party. It was as if the engine of consciousness was still running at full throttle, but the car was parked in the garage with the handbrake firmly on. This is where we get to one of the most crucial safety features of this entire operation, REM atonia. The term atonia simply means a lack of muscle tone, a paralysis. And it's an absolute lifesaver. Literally. During these intense phases of REM sleep, a powerful mechanism in your brainstem, a region called the pons, sends out signals that essentially disconnect your motor neurons, the cells that tell your muscles to move, from your brain's commands. It's like a switch is flipped that disables the connection between your brain's instructions and your body's ability to carry them out. Why would your body do such a thing? Well, imagine for a second what would happen if it didn't. Your brain is in this hyperactive state, constructing entire realities, vivid narratives where you might be running from a monster, or flying over a city, or having a passionate argument. If your body was still connected, you would physically act out all of these dreams. You would get out of bed and run into a wall. You might flail your arms and hit your sleeping partner. You could seriously injure yourself. This paralysis is a brilliant evolutionary adaptation that keeps you safe while your brain does its important, internal work. It cages the body so the mind can run free. There is a fascinating and, frankly, a bit terrifying sleep disorder called REM sleep behavior disorder that shows us what happens when this system breaks down. In people with this condition, that brainstem switch doesn't work properly. The paralysis of REM atonia fails, and they physically act out their dreams. They might shout, punch, kick, or get out of bed and run. It can be dangerous for them and their bed partners, and it's a stark reminder of how essential this built-in paralysis is for a safe night's sleep. It's the proof of the rule, showing us in dramatic fashion what the body is supposed to be prevented from doing. Now, let's talk about those eyes. Why are they moving so rapidly? If the body is paralyzed, why are the eyes the exception? This is one of the most enduring mysteries in sleep science, and there are several compelling theories. The leading one is quite intuitive. We're literally watching the show. This is called the scanning hypothesis. It suggests that the eye movements correspond to the visual scenes unfolding in our dream world. If you're dreaming about watching a tennis match, your eyes might dart left and right. If you're dreaming about climbing a staircase and looking up, your eyes might roll upward beneath your lids. The movements aren't random. They're tracking the action of the internal movie your brain is projecting. Some fascinating studies have even provided evidence for this. Researchers have woken people up during bursts of rapid eye movement and asked them what they were just dreaming about. Often, the direction of the eye movements reported just before waking matches the described action in the dream. It's not a perfect one-to-one match every single time, but the correlation is strong enough to be significant. It's as if the part of the brain that controls eye movement is still taking orders from the visual cortex, which is busy painting the dream landscape. Another theory, the brain activation theory, suggests that the eye movements might be a mere byproduct of the brain's general high level of activation during REM sleep. They might not be scanning anything specific, but just jiggling around because the brainstem, which controls basic functions like breathing and heart rate, is in such a hyperactive state. It's like the idling of a powerful engine. But the scanning hypothesis still remains the most popular and romantic explanation, that even in our deepest isolation, our eyes are seeking out the world our mind has created. And what a world it is! The brain during REM sleep is not just vaguely active, it's a symphony of specific, coordinated firing. Using modern tools like fMRI and PET scans, which let us see blood flow and metabolic activity in the brain, we can now watch this symphony in live action. The visual cortex, the very back of your brain that processes sights, is lit up like a Christmas tree. But here's the key difference. When you're awake, it's lit up because it's processing signals coming from your eyes. During REM sleep, it's lit up because it's generating images from within, from memory and imagination, with no input from the outside world. It's creating its own light show. Meanwhile, the limbic system, your brain's emotional center, is going wild. The amygdala, in particular, which is like the alarm bell for fear, anxiety, and other strong emotions, is highly active. This explains why so many of our dreams are so intensely emotional, why we feel sheer terror when being chased, or overwhelming joy when we find something we've lost, or profound sadness in a dream of farewell. The emotional volume knob is turned way, way up. Your rational brain isn't there to turn it down. And that rational brain, the part of you that's listening to me now and making sense of this information, is primarily housed in your prefrontal cortex. This is the CEO of the brain, the executive that manages logic, decision-making, and crucially, reality testing. It's the part that says, "Hold on a minute, people can't fly. And that person has been dead for years, this must be a dream." Well, during REM sleep, the CEO is on a coffee break. The prefrontal cortex shows significantly lower activity. This is the final piece of the puzzle that makes the dream world so convincingly real while we're in it. With our emotional centers in overdrive and our logical centers offline, we accept the bizarre, the impossible, and the surreal without question. We are utterly immersed in the narrative, because the part of us that could step back and critique the plot is fast asleep. So, when we put it all together, this discovery from 1953 reveals a breathtakingly complex and elegant process. As you sleep, your brain cycles in and out of this extraordinary state, a state of internal frenzy and external calm, where your eyes become the camera for an internal film, your body is locked down for its own protection, your emotions are set free to run rampant, and logic is temporarily suspended. It's a biological paradox, a physiological marvel, and a nightly testament to the incredible, untamed world that exists just behind your closed eyelids. The chemistry of your brain during REM sleep is equally fascinating. The system that releases norepinephrine and serotonin, neurotransmitters important for attention and rational thinking, is virtually shut off. Meanwhile, acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter involved in memory and learning, floods certain brain areas. This unique chemical cocktail creates the perfect conditions for the vivid, emotionally charged, sometimes bizarre experiences we call dreams. Now you might be wondering, do dreams only happen during REM sleep? For a long time, scientists thought so, but we now know that's not entirely accurate. While the most vivid, narrative, and bizarre dreams, what researchers call typical dreams, do predominantly occur during REM sleep, people also report dreamlike experiences when awakened from non-REM sleep stages, especially later in the night. However, non-REM dreams tend to be more fragmentary, less visual, and more thought-like compared to their REM counterparts. So, while dreams can happen throughout sleep, the full-color, feature-length movie dreams primarily occur during REM periods. As the night progresses, your REM periods get longer. Your first REM period might last just 10 minutes, but your final REM period before waking can extend to an hour or more. This is why you're most likely to remember a dream if you wake up naturally in the morning, during one of these extended REM sessions. But here's the million-dollar question: why? Why does your brain put on these elaborate shows night after night? What possible purpose could dreams serve? Why does your brain, this incredible biological machine, dedicates so much energy to creating these elaborate, often bizarre, feature-length films in your mind night after night? It's a question that has puzzled humans for millennia, and while we don't have a single, simple answer, the theories we have today, backed by modern neuroscience, are more fascinating than any dream itself. Let's start with one of the most compelling ideas, which is that dreaming is intimately connected to the very architecture of our memories. Think about your average day for a moment. From the second you wake up, you are bombarded with a tsunami of information. The feel of your bedsheets, the sound of your alarm, the taste of your breakfast, the countless faces you see on your commute, the conversations you have, the problems you solve at work or at home, the music you hear, the things you read, it's an endless, roaring river of sensory data, thoughts, and feelings. Your conscious mind, the you that you feel is in the driver's seat, only catches a tiny fraction of this. But your brain? It's recording everything, or at least, it's trying to. It simply can't possibly remember all of it with equal clarity and importance. If it did, your mind would be like a computer with a hard drive so full of random text files, photos, and videos that it would crash before lunchtime. So, your brain needs a system, a highly efficient, nightly filing and janitorial service, to sort through this massive avalanche of information, deciding what to keep, what to throw away, and most importantly, how to connect new memories with the vast library of knowledge you've already accumulated over a lifetime. This is where sleep, and dreaming in particular, comes in as the ultimate manager of your mind. Research led by scientists like Dr. Gina Post suggests a beautiful and elegant process. During REM sleep, when most of our vivid dreaming occurs, your brain is doing something akin to transferring files from a temporary, fast-access desktop to a more organized, long-term storage server. Imagine your hippocampus, a small, seahorse-shaped region deep in your brain, as that cluttered desktop. It's brilliant for holding on to the new files of the day, that new word you learned, the route you took to a new cafe, the name of a person you just met. But its space is limited. The neocortex, the wrinkly, outer layer of your brain that is responsible for higher functions like language, sensory perception, and long-term memory, is like the massive, organized server farm. As Dr. Poe beautifully explains it, the process is a two-part miracle. REM sleep is for remembering until it is consolidated, and then it is for forgetting. Let's unpack that. First, it's for remembering. During the dream state, your brain is actively replaying the important events and skills of the day, strengthening the neural connections that form those memories, and carefully filing them away into the neocortex, interweaving them with your existing knowledge. This is how a new memory moves from being a fragile, recent event to a stable, permanent part of your understanding of the world. It's like the brain is taking a new snapshot and carefully pasting it into the correct page of your life's photo album, connecting it to other similar photos. But then comes the second, equally crucial part, it's for forgetting. To make space for new learning the next day, the brain needs to clear out the hippocampus, this temporary storage area. It does this by weakening the less important neural connections formed during the day, the insignificant details, the random thoughts, the emotional clutter that would otherwise overwhelm you. So, dreaming is this incredible, nightly act of curation. It's your brain's way of saying, okay, this conversation with a friend was emotionally significant, let's keep it and connect it to other memories of friendship. But this momentary frustration of being stuck in traffic? Let's let that go. This process ensures that you wake up with a refreshed and cleared out hippocampus, ready to learn and absorb new information all over again. But this isn't just a cold, mechanical filing process. The reason dreams feel so strange and emotionally charged is that this memory sorting is happening in a brain that is chemically and electrically very different from your awake brain. Key regions for logical, critical thinking, like the prefrontal cortex, are taking a nap. This is the part of your brain that acts as the CEO or the head librarian, It's responsible for reality testing, planning, and impulse control. When it's offline, the rules of the waking world don't apply. This allows the brain to make wild, novel, and creative connections between memories that your logical, awake mind might never consider. At the same time, the emotional center of your brain, the amygdala, and the visual cortex are lit up like a Christmas tree. This is why in your dreams, you can be in your childhood home one moment, and a foreign city the next, talking to a composite person who looks like your boss but acts like your grandmother. Your brain is freely associating, pulling memory fragments from different folders in your neocortex and stitching them together into a narrative. It's not being random, it's exploring the connections between different memories, asking, "What if?" This is the process of condensation and displacement that Freud talked about, but we now see it as a natural byproduct of the brain's memory integration process, not necessarily a disguise for hidden wishes. This also explains why dreams are so powerfully emotional. The amygdala, your brain's alarm system for fear and other strong emotions, is highly active. So, as your brain replays and processes the emotional events of the day, it's doing so with the volume knob on your feelings turned way up, and without the rational CEO there to say, "Calm down, it's just a memory." This intense emotional rehearsal is now thought to be a crucial part of how we manage our feelings. It's like overnight therapy. By re-experiencing an anxiety from your waking life in the safe, virtual reality of a dream, where your body is paralyzed and you can't act physically, your brain may be working to strip the memory of its raw, painful intensity, helping you to cope with it better when you're awake. This is why after a stressful event, you might have stressful dreams, but over time, this process can help you come to terms with it. It's your brain's way of metabolizing difficult emotions, of learning from them without being overwhelmed by them in the real world. Another fascinating theory that fits beautifully with this idea of the brain as a simulator is the threat simulation theory, proposed by Finnish neuroscientist Antti Raivanchuo. He suggested that from an evolutionary perspective, dreams provided our ancestors with a virtual reality simulator to practice dealing with dangerous situations, being chased by a predator, encountering a hostile tribe, navigating dangerous terrain. Those who had this nightly, safe practice might have been better prepared for real-life threats, giving them a significant survival advantage. This theory aligns perfectly with how common certain dream themes are across different cultures: being chased, falling, fighting, or encountering dangerous animals. These universal dream scenarios might be echoes of this ancient threat simulation system, a built-in training ground that is still operating in our modern brains, even if our threats are now more likely to be upcoming presentations rather than saber-toothed tigers. Your brain is using the memory fragments of things you fear or need to navigate, and it's running drills, creating a "what would I do?" scenario to keep your instincts sharp. And then there's the role of dreaming in creativity and problem-solving. With the logical prefrontal cortex offline and the brain freely making hyper-associations between disparate ideas, dreaming becomes a state of pure, uninhibited creativity. There are countless stories throughout history of breakthroughs happening in dreams. The chemist Dmitri Mendeleev is said to have dreamed the final arrangement of the periodic table of elements. Paul McCartney famously dreamed the entire melody for the Beatles' song, "Yesterday." This is your brain, in its memory sorting mode, accidentally stumbling upon a brilliant new connection. It's taking a problem you've been chewing on during the day and using the vast, interconnected database of your memories, presenting a novel solution in the form of a dream narrative. You're essentially tapping into the supercomputer of your unconscious mind, where the normal rules of logic are suspended, and anything is possible. So, when you piece it all together, the why of dreaming is not just one thing, but a symphony of vital functions all playing out in the theater of your sleeping mind. It is your brain's essential maintenance routine, a master librarian filing away the day's experiences, a therapeutic emotional regulator helping you process feelings, an ancient survival trainer running safety drills, and a brilliant creative partner making unexpected connections. It is the price we pay, and the beautiful reward we receive, for having a brain that learns, feels, and adapts. Every bizarre dream, every peaceful reverie, and every terrifying nightmare is a sign that under the cover of darkness, your brain is working tirelessly to organize your past, prepare you for the future, and ultimately, to help you navigate the beautiful complexity of your waking life. The content and nature of our dreams change dramatically throughout our lives, reflecting the development and maturation of our brains. Children's dreams are quite different from adult dreams. Researcher David Fawkes found that children under age 7 report dreaming only about 20% of the time when awakened from REM sleep, compared to 80 to 90% in adults. When young children do dream, their dreams are often static and plain, perhaps just an image of an animal or thinking about eating. There are no complex narratives, few social interactions, and the child themselves often isn't an active character in the dream. It's not until around age 7 or 8 that dreams begin to include the child as an active participant and develop more narrative structure. What's particularly fascinating is that dream recall in children correlates best with mental imagery skills rather than language ability. Children who perform well on visual spatial tasks like block design are more likely to remember their dreams, suggesting that the ability to dream vividly is connected to the development of specific brain regions, particularly in the parietal lobes, which aren't fully myelinated until around age 7. Perhaps one of the most fascinating dream phenomena is lucid dreaming, when you become aware that you're dreaming while still in the dream. In a lucid dream, you might think, "This is a dream," and potentially even gain some control over the dream narrative. You see, the idea of being aware within a dream isn't new at all. In fact, it's a concept that has fascinated philosophers, mystics, and storytellers for thousands of years. Ancient Hindu texts known as the Upanishads, written over 1,000 years before the Common Era, described a state of conscious awareness in the dream world. Similarly, Tibetan Buddhist monks have practiced a form of dream yoga for centuries, cultivating awareness during sleep as a spiritual exercise. Even the great Greek philosopher Aristotle, back in 350 BC, mused in his work, On Dreams, that often when one is asleep, there is something in consciousness which declares that what then presents itself is but a dream. So, the experience itself is ancient. But for the longest time in the modern world, if you went to a scientist and said, "Last night, I knew I was dreaming, and I even directed the story," they would have likely patted you on the head and said it was just a fanciful, false memory you had the moment you woke up. The prevailing scientific dogma was that the sleeping brain was incapable of supporting such a high-level conscious state, that consciousness was simply turned off during sleep. This is where the story gets really interesting, because proving this was real required a stroke of genius. How do you get a message from inside a dream? The problem was finding a way for a sleeping person to send a verifiable signal from inside the dream world to the outside world in the laboratory. The brilliant insight came from researchers like Keith Hearn in the UK and Stephen LaBerge at Stanford University, who realized that while most of your body is paralyzed during REM sleep, a safety feature called REM atonia that stops you from acting out your dreams, not all muscles are shut down. Your eye muscles are the notable exception. This is why we observe rapid eye movements in the first place. So, they had an idea. What if they could train a person to make a specific, pre-agreed upon pattern of eye movements the very moment they realized they were dreaming? This signal, a sort of Morse code from the unconscious, could be captured by the sensitive electrodes placed around the eyes in a sleep lab, called an electrooculagram, EOG. The most famous of these signals is the left-right, LRLR, pattern. Imagine the scene: a volunteer is asleep in a lab, covered in wires, their brainwaves showing they are in deep REM sleep. Suddenly, the EOG monitor picks up a clear, deliberate, left-right sweeping motion of the eyes. It's unmistakable. When the researchers wake the volunteer up, they don't just say, "I was dreaming." They say, "I was dreaming, and I realized I was dreaming, and then I made the eye signal we agreed on. This was the concrete, objective proof the scientific community needed. It was a message in a bottle, sent from the shores of a dream, and it irrevocably changed the field of dream science. It demonstrated that lucid dreaming was not only real but was happening during bona fide, physiologically verified REM sleep. Now, with this door kicked wide open, neuroscientists could ask the next big question: what is happening inside the brain during a lucid dream? Why is it so different from a regular dream? This is where neuroimaging studies using fMRI and PET scans come in, and what they've revealed is absolutely fascinating. It all centers on a part of your brain called the prefrontal cortex. Think of your prefrontal cortex as the CEO of your brain. It's the region right behind your forehead that is responsible for your highest level cognitive functions: logical reasoning, critical decision making, self-awareness, and volitional control, your free will. Now, in a regular, non-lucid dream, this CEO is basically on a coffee break. The prefrontal cortex shows significantly lower activity compared to when you're awake. This is a major reason why in regular dreams, we accept the most bizarre and impossible events without question. The part of our brain that would normally step in and say, "Hey, wait a minute, people can't fly, and that person has been dead for years," is offline. But in lucid dreams, something remarkable happens. Neuroimaging studies show that during a lucid dream, certain areas of this dormant prefrontal cortex light up, springing back into action. It's as if the CEO has been woken up and is now back in the office, albeit a very strange and fluid one. This surge of activity in the prefrontal cortex provides the neural machinery for that sudden spark of insight, that glorious aha moment when you think, "This is a dream." It gives you the capacity for self-awareness and the ability to consciously, volitionally direct your attention and intentions within the dreamscape. You're still asleep, your body is paralyzed, but a critical part of your conscious, rational mind has come online to join the party, creating a unique hybrid state of consciousness. This isn't just a cool party trick for your brain. This understanding of lucid dreaming has opened up incredibly promising therapeutic applications, particularly for one of the most distressing sleep-related problems: recurring nightmares. For people who suffer from frequent nightmares, especially those with conditions like post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, nights can be a terrifying ordeal. They are trapped in a dark loop, forced to relive their fears without any control. Lucid dreaming therapy offers a way out. The idea is to train these individuals to recognize the telltale signs that they are in a nightmare and to achieve lucidity right there in the middle of the terror. The moment of realization, "This is just a dream," is in itself powerfully therapeutic. It immediately creates a psychological distance from the fear. The monster or the threatening situation is stripped of its reality and its power to harm. But it goes even further. Once lucid, the dreamer can then be taught to actively transform the nightmare narrative. Instead of running from the monster, they can turn and face it. They can ask it what it represents. They can simply wave a hand and make it disappear. They can transform the dark forest into a sunny beach. They are no longer a passive victim of the dream but an active director and hero of their own story. Research has shown that this practice, often used in conjunction with other therapies like imagery rehearsal therapy, IRT, can significantly reduce the frequency and intensity of nightmares, lessen overall anxiety, and improve sleep quality and overall well-being. It's a powerful example of how understanding the neuroscience of a phenomenon can directly lead to tools that alleviate human suffering, turning a source of dread into an opportunity for empowerment and healing. As we've seen, dreaming is a complex phenomenon arising from specific patterns of brain activity, chemistry, and connectivity. But it's important to remember that despite all we've learned, there's still much mystery surrounding why we dream. The theories we've discussed, memory processing, emotional regulation, threat simulation, aren't necessarily mutually exclusive. Dreaming likely serves multiple functions, all emerging from the basic architecture of your sleeping brain. Your brain isn't just randomly firing during sleep. It's engaging in precisely coordinated activities that are crucial for your mental functioning, emotional well-being, and cognitive performance when you're awake. When you don't get enough sleep, and consequently not enough dreaming, it affects your mood, your ability to learn and remember, your creativity, and even your social skills. This might leave you wondering, how can you remember your dreams better? Dream recall varies tremendously from person to person, but research has identified some factors that can influence it. People who wake up directly from REM sleep are more likely to remember their dreams. Also, studies have found that people who have more theta waves in their frontal lobes tend to have better dream recall. Interesting, because theta activity is associated with the successful encoding of memories while we're awake. Keeping a dream journal by your bedside and writing down whatever fragments you remember immediately upon waking can significantly improve your dream recall over time. Also, simply setting the intention before sleep to remember your dreams can make a difference. Well, there you have it, the incredible neuroscience behind why we dream. From the electrical dances of your neurons to the mysterious landscapes of your mind, dreaming represents one of the most fascinating intersections of biology and subjective experience. As we've explored today, your dreams emerge from complex patterns of brain activity, chemistry, and connectivity during sleep. They likely serve crucial functions in processing memories, regulating emotions, and maintaining your mental health. The next time you wake up remembering a bizarre or vivid dream, you can appreciate the incredible neurological symphony that produced it. If you've made it this far, you're clearly as fascinated by the mysteries of the mind as I am. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the neuroscience of dreams, please show your support by hitting that like button and subscribing to the Science of Sleep for more content exploring the wonders of your brain. Don't forget to ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below telling me about the most fascinating dream you've ever had. And remember to include where you're watching from and what time it is for you. I read every single comment and absolutely love connecting with our global community of curious minds. As we wrap up, I want to thank you for spending this time with me, exploring the incredible world of dreams. However you're spending your waking hours, I hope you carry a little of that wonder and curiosity with you. From all of us here at the Science of Sleep, we're wishing you peaceful nights, fascinating dreams, and joyful awakenings. So, wherever you are in the world, whatever time you're watching this, good night, sweet dreams, and we'll see you in the next video.